Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. No one in Genoa City ever truly believes they're safe when Victor Newman is involved, but indeed Phyllis Summers no way imagined the peril she'd walk into that night. What began as a moment of instinct, dubitation, and sharp-eared curiosity snappily entwined into commodity far darker, far more final. Because when Phyllis eavesdropped Kane Ashby and Victor Newman's secret meeting, she didn't just learn a shocking verity, she inked her own exposure. And the intimidating part? Kane and Victor had no idea she was hearkening until it was formally too late. It happened after hours, in one of those forgotten corners of Newman Enterprises that Victor still controlled like a chessboard. Phyllis had returned to the structure on a hunch, a gut feeling she'd learned long ago no way to ignore. Kane had been acting strangely again, slipping into silence when Victor's name came up, dodging questions with half grins and vague solace. To Phyllis, that kind of jest screamed peril. She told herself she was just tying up loose ends, but deep down, she knew she was hunting for the verity. What she didn't anticipate was to find Victor Newman himself standing in the murk, his voice low, sharp, and deadly calm. Hidden behind an incompletely open door, Phyllis said as she heard Victor's unmistakable tone. This wasn't casual discussion. This wasn't business as usual. This was strategy, cold wave, calculated, and ruthless. Kane's voice followed, tense but determined, and Phyllis felt her blood run cold wave as she realized what she was eavesdropping wasn't just a deal, it was a plan to abolish someone from the board. Her. Victor spoke first, his words deliberate, every syllable chosen with care. He advised Kane that Phyllis was a liability, changeable, emotional, and far too knowledgeable for her own good. She knows too important, Victor said flatly. And people who know too important don't survive long in this city. Kane didn't incontinently argue. That silence alone told Phyllis everything she demanded to know. The man who formerly claimed to be her supporter was standing there, hearkening to her implicit fate being bandied like a business vexation. When Kane eventually spoke, his voice was quieter, heavier. He admitted Phyllis had come a problem, not because she was weak, but because she was too strong, too observant, too likely to blow everything piecemeal if she discovered the full compass of what they were planning. Victor pressed him, demanding a result. And that's when Phyllis heard the word that changed everything. Victor didn't clarify, didn't soften it, didn't dress it up. Exclude could mean numerous effects in Victor Newman's world: career destruction, exile, exposure, or commodity far worse. And as Phyllis heeded, heart pounding so loudly she stressed it would give her down, she realized this wasn't a warning. This was a preamble. The plan unfolded piece by piece. Kane and Victor were working together to consolidate power, manipulate commercial control, and bury substantiation tied to the AI reproach, fiscal backstabbings, and secrets that could bring both men down. Phyllis, with her history, her access, and her incapability to stay silent, was the one variable they couldn't control. Victor made it clear she couldn't be allowed to intrude any longer. Phyllis backed down sluggishly, her breath shallow, her mind racing. She had what she demanded: evidence, motive, and evidence that she was in real peril. But Genoa City had tutored her a cruel assignment over the times, knowing the verity doesn't always save you. Occasionally, it paints a target on your reverse. She no way made it to the elevator. What happened next was erected together laterally through security glitches, fractured substantiation accounts, and the creepy silence Phyllis left before. Surveillance cameras mysteriously went offline in the corridor she'd been in. A cleaning crew reported seeing nothing unusual. Victor's office lights went dark twinkles laterally, and Kane left through a private exit, his expression undecipherable. By morning, Phyllis Summers was gone. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her apartment showed signs of interruption, not a struggle, but not normal moreover. A half-packed bag. A fractured glass. A laptop missing. To those who knew Phyllis, it was unmistakable she hadn't left willingly. The shockwaves hit presto and hard. Daniel was the first to horrify, seeing commodity was wrong when his mama didn't show up or respond. Summer followed, her fear snappily turning into fury as she demanded answers from anyone who might have seen Phyllis last. Nick Newman felt the dread settle in his casket nearly incontinently, because he knew his father, and he knew what Victor was able of when he decided someone was expendable. Victor, of course, played his part impeccably. Calm. Concerned. Detached. He expressed remorse over Phyllis's absence but offered no urgency, no real help. Kane, on the other hand, unraveled still. Guilt crept into his eyes, his words growing sharper, more protective. He claimed he didn't know where Phyllis was, and technically, that might have been true. But he knew why she was gone. Behind unrestricted doors, Victor reminded Kane that this was the cost of power. You wanted to win, Victor told him coldly. This is what winning looks like. Kane said nothing, but the weight of Phyllis's exposure pressed down on him like a curse. As the days passed, rumors exploded across Genoa City. Some believed Phyllis had fled, choosing tone preservation over another war with Victor Newman. Others rumored darker propositions, that Victor had eventually gone too far, that Kane had crossed a line he could no way uncross. Every proposition carried the same nipping verity: Phyllis Summers had been excluded from the game. But Phyllis has no way been just a pawn. Unknown to Kane and Victor, Phyllis had done what she always did: stylish, she'd prepared for treason long before it arrived. The question hanging Genoa City wasn't just where Phyllis was, but whether her exposure was the end of her story or the morning of her most dangerous move yet. Because if Phyllis Summers is still alive, and if she took evidence of that secret meeting with her, also Kane and Victor didn't exclude a trouble. They created a reckoning. And when Phyllis returns, because in Genoa City, the dead infrequently stay gone, the men who allowed they silenced her may find themselves exposed, destroyed, and hugely helpless against the woman who heard everything and survived. One thing is certain: this secret meeting didn't just go wrong. It changed everything. The silence girding Phyllis Summers' exposure didn't just loiter, it suffocated Genoa City. Every hour without answers made the verity harder to ignore. This was an evaporating act. It was an erasure. And the longer Victor Newman said nothing, the louder his guilt screamed to those who knew him stylish. Nick Newman felt at first, that cold, familiar dread settling in his bones. He'd lived through too numerous moments where Victor's calm surface hid disastrous opinions. When Nick stormed into Newman Enterprises demanding to know what his father had done, Victor didn't raise his voice. He didn't deny anything outright. He simply advised Nick not to ask questions he wasn't prepared to hear the answers to. That alone told Nick everything. Meanwhile, Kane Ashby was unraveling. Outwardly, he tried to maintain control, attending meetings, issuing directives, pretending life in Genoa City continued as normal. But behind unrestricted doors, the cracks were spreading presto. He replayed that night over and over again: Victor's words, Phyllis's name spoken like a liability, the moment Kane didn't stop it. He told himself he no way ordered detriment. He told himself Victor wouldn't go that far. But deep down, Kane knew better. Victor Newman always went that far. What neither man knew was that Phyllis had no way intended to defy them incontinently. Eavesdropping that secret meeting flipped a switch inside her: survival mode. Times of treason had tutored her one unbreakable rule: when Victor Newman decides you're a problem, you vanish on your own terms or you don't vanish at all. Phyllis made it as far as the underground garage before she realized she was being followed. At first, she allowed. It was paranoia, the adrenaline still pumping from what she'd heard. But also she saw the reflection in a darkened window. A man she didn't fate. Too calm. Too deliberate. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just there. Staying. That was when Phyllis understood the horrifying verity: Victor's plan wasn't theoretical. It was formally in stir. She did the one thing Victor no way anticipated. She dissolved before they could finish the job. Phyllis dumped her phone, knowing it was the easiest way to track her. She slipped into the murk of Genoa City using connections she'd no way cancelled, people Victor didn't know about, people Kane no way suspected she'd kept in reserve. By the time Victor realized Phyllis hadn't simply left city, she was formally gone, but not without insurance. Before fading fully, Phyllis transferred one communication. Not to Nick. Not to Summer. Not indeed to Daniel. She transferred it to herself, listed, translated, and timed to detonate if she didn't cancel it. Evidence. Audio fractions. Security stills. Time prints. Enough to destroy reports, pots, and patrimonies. Enough to make Victor Newman bleed where it hurt most. Control. Back in Genoa City, fear set in when Chancellor officially classified Phyllis's exposure as suspicious. Victor's name wasn't mentioned intimately, but everyone knew better. Kane felt the walls closing in as Chance questioned him, his calm professionalism slightly masking dubitation. Kane denied everything, and yet his hands shook as he inked statements swearing he'd nothing to hide. Lily noticed. She noticed Kane's insomniac nights. His short temper. The way he squinched every time Phyllis's name was spoken. When Lily brazened him, demanding to know what he wasn't telling her, Kane veered, but the damage was done. Trust cracked. And formerly trust cracks in Genoa City, it no way heals still. Nick, meanwhile, went straight for Victor. Their battle was explosive. Nick indicted his father of crossing a line he could no way uncross, of turning business contest into commodity darker, commodity unrecoverable. Victor didn't deny wanting Phyllis annulled. He simply argued necessity. She was a trouble, Victor said coldly. To you. To your children. To everything we've erected. Nick's fury erupted. He advised Victor that if Phyllis was dead, there would be no remission, no fidelity left to exploit. Victor held his aspect. Unblinking, and delivered a nipping response, also supplicate she's smarter than you suppose. That was when Nick realized commodity horrifying. Victor wasn't sure. Days laterally, the first crack in Victor's control appeared. An anonymous dispatch hit multiple inboxes across Genoa City's elite, vague, cryptic, but unmistakable. A single line of textbook followed by a timestamp from the night Phyllis faded. Kane entered it first. His blood ran cold. Victor entered it twinkles laterally, and for the first time in times, Victor Newman felt commodity dangerously close to fear. Phyllis was alive. And she was watching. The communication didn't expose everything, not yet. It was a warning shot. A memorial that elimination goes both ways. Victor incontinently ordered damage control, pulling coffers, calling favors, demanding answers from people who suddenly claimed ignorance. But Phyllis had learned from the stylish, and she had learned from Victor. She stayed unnoticeable. From her retired retreat, Phyllis watched Genoa City gash itself piecemeal. Kane's alliance with Victor began to deteriorate under the pressure. Lily reseated herself. Business mates grew cautious. Victor's grip tensed, but the harder he squeezed, the further resistance he created. And Nick still prepared for war. The turning point came when Summer entered a communication only her mama would know how to write. No hand. No position. Just 3 words that shattered her fear and replaced it with fire. I'm not done. Summer didn't tell anyone, not indeed Nick. She knew better. Phyllis wasn't hiding out of weakness. She was staying. Planning. And when Phyllis Summers eventually returned, it wouldn't be as a victim. It would be as in cutthroat. The question brewing over Genoa City wasn't whether Victor and Kane would fall. It was who would fall with them. Because Phyllis hadn't just survived elimination. She had turned it into influence. And when the verity eventually exploded, when the recordings played, when the scheme unraveled, when Victor Newman's conglomerate quivered, the world would flash back exactly why Phyllis Summers was no way meant to be silenced. She was meant to be stressed. The day Genoa City realized Phyllis Summers was no longer missing but hunting was the day Victor Newman's confidence eventually cracked. It began still, the way all the most ruinous storms do. A non-public board memo dissolved from Newman Enterprises' internal waiters without driving a single alert. No admonitions. No security flags. Just gone. Victor noticed within twinkles. He always did. And when he demanded an explanation, his tech platoon goggled back at him in stupefied silence. The system hadn't been introduced from the outside. Someone had walked in through a door they formerly possessed. Victor dismissed the staff with a sharp surge of his hand, but the pressure in his jaw told the real story. Phyllis Summers wasn't just alive. She was inside his walls. Kane Ashby felt it too. He was sitting in his office when the envelope appeared on his office, no knock, no adjunct publicizing delivery. Just a thick, cream-colored brochure staying for him when he returned from a call. His name written on the front in unmistakable red essay. Phyllis's handwriting. Kane's breath caught as he opened it, his hands pulsing despite his trouble to stay composed. Inside were clones of documents he knew shouldn't live, private dispatches, altered contracts, internal memos tying him directly to Victor's covert scheme. And on top of it all, a single handwritten note. You had a choice. That was each it said. Kane drooped into his president, the weight of it crushing his casket. This wasn't blackmail. This was judgment. Across city, Nick Newman was beginning to connect the blotches. The anonymous leaks, the subtle dislocations, the way Victor's conglomerate was suddenly miscarrying at critical moments, it all felt too familiar. Nick had seen this interpretation of Phyllis ahead. Strategic. Case. Ruthless when cornered. And for the first time since her exposure, Nick allowed himself to believe she wasn't just surviving. She was winning. The Real explosion came that evening at the Chancellor Winter's charity fete, an event Victor had helped guarantor, awaiting nothing further than public goodwill and controlled optics. Genoa City's nobility filled the room, champagne flowing, cameras flashing. Victor stood at the center, composed as ever, delivering a speech about heritage and adaptability. Also the defenses behind him flitted. At first, people allowed. It was a specialized glitch. But when audio crepitated through the speakers, the room went silent. Victor's voice echoed across the chamber, cold wave, unmistakable, and devastatingly clear. She knows too important. Gasps gurgled through the crowd as Kane's voice followed, tense and unmistakably complicit. Also we exclude the threat. The recording cut suddenly, replaced by a single word in bold red letters. Eliminated? Chaos erupted. Journalists surged forward. Guests rumored, phones formerly out. Victor sat, not panicked, not maddened but stunned. He hadn't authorized that release. He hadn't anticipated it. Phyllis had chosen her moment impeccably. Kane tried to slip down, but Lily was formally blocking his path, her eyes blazing with treason and unbelief. Tell me, she demanded, her voice shaking. Tell me that wasn't you. Kane couldn't answer. His silence said everything. Victor recaptured his countenance snappily, stepping forward to dismiss the recording as manipulation, fabricated audio, a smear crusade. But the damage was done. Mistrustfulness clung to him like bank, thick and suffocating. For the first time in decades, Victor Newman was being questioned intimately and he abominated it. Latterly that night, Victor returned to the estate to find commodity staying for him. A fire burning in the study fireplace. Victor stopped cold wave. He no way left fires unattended. And seated calmly in one of the leather chairpersons, her figure outlined by fluttering deers, was Phyllis Summers. Alive. Unbroken. Smiling. Victor didn't reach for his phone. He didn't call security. He simply goggled, his expression undecipherable. You've made your point, he said still. This ends now. Phyllis laughed, a soft, dangerous sound. No, Victor. This began when you decided I was disposable. She stood, stepping into the light. There were murk under her eyes, but her posture was steady, her aspect razor sharp. This wasn't a woman who had been hiding in fear. This was a woman who had been stropping shanks. You wanted me excluded, she continued. Rather, you excluded your own influence. Victor advised her she was playing a dangerous game. Phyllis lifted her head, regaled. I learned from you. She revealed everything also, not all the substantiation, but enough. The backups. The timed releases. The contingencies touched off if anything happened to her. Victor realized the horrifying verity: killing Phyllis now would only guarantee his destruction. For the first time, Victor Newman had lost control of the wind-up. Meanwhile, Kane's world collapsed in real time. The Fate fallout touched off internal examinations, shareholder revolutions, and legal inquiries. Lily moved out. His abettors abandoned him. And when Chancellor returned with a leave, this time with real substantiation, Kane knew there was no escaping the reckoning. He tried to reach Phyllis, hopeless to negotiate, to explain, to supplicate. She didn't answer. Rather, she transferred him one final communication. "You didn't stop it. Now live with it." Nick eventually saw her the coming morning, when she appeared at Crimson Lights as casually as if she'd no way dissolved at all. The room fell silent.